Oh my!
It's Dynamite!
Wednesday night Dynamite!
So Dynamite!
This is awesome! It's a this, it's a that, it's a this! Hey everybody, have a great time!
I'm not one of these f***ing goof podcasters out there. I am Don. Wednesday night Dynamite! What's up, everybody? Oh, what an interesting week in the world of pro wrestling. The Rascals in WWE. Mike Tyson over the weekend. Jazz on Impact Wrestling. Kenny Omega. Sting signing a multi-year deal with AEW. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's going to be a very interesting show, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to this edition of Wednesday Night Dynamite. I am Don Tony. All right. Right off the bat, we had a little bit of buffering over here. So I am back. Wednesday Night Dynamite. Man, what an interesting few days. A lot of nostalgia. I'm not sure how I feel about this Montreal screw job type deal. When I opened up 2020, anybody that has been with me for a while knows that before even COVID, I said I thought 2020 is going to be the year of commingling. The year of commingling. That's what I said. The beginning of 2020, it was like January or February. I said I think 2020 is going to be the year of commingling. Did I think it was going to get to this level? No, probably not. But I don't know where this goes from here. I mean, AEW, they're getting a little bit of a rub because of NWA. I hope all of you out there that are part of our Patreon family really tunes into Breakfast Soup, the mission I did on Tuesday, because we had about a 15 to 20 minute discussion about NWA. NWA by far has suffered the worst during COVID. And I'll be honest with you, and it was weird to have Mish agreeing with me yesterday on this. But to have, Billy Corgan, it almost feels like he's sitting on the sidelines, Billy Corgan, just watching Ring of Honor return, watching MLW return, seeing all these other federations. Yes, Lion, Pat Patterson did pass away. Would you like to produce the show? Seriously, would you like to produce the show? All right. So here you go. I'm going to give you the microphone. I'm waiting. I don't. What do you want me to do next? I'm giving you the floor. Be patient. It's amazing that Sting shows up and the old and disgruntled and the bitter bitches out there that soured on Mike Tyson are souring on Sting. You don't even know what Sting is going to do yet in AEW. He may end up being the new manager for Cody and Darby Allin. Maybe that's why Arn Anderson got the crap beat out of him. Maybe Arn cuts a promo next week like, look, I'm a liability out there. Maybe Sting becomes like the commissioner that I feel that AEW desperately needs, that Cody said, we'll never do that. We're going to insult fans' intelligences by doing that. They know they don't really have authority. Son of a bitch, what are you doing in the ring every week? It's entertainment. Every part of it is entertainment. It doesn't feel legit. Is that AEW's fault? No. Is that WWE's fault? Okay, so do something about it. Fix what WWE screwed up. God damn you, Lion. Nah, he's all good. He's good people. But what my point is Mike Tyson returns, 1.5 million pay-per-view buys, doesn't embarrass himself. I think there's going to be a rematch, and I swear to you, and I talked about this on Monday. I stood away from social media for most of the weekend. I was on vacation, thank God. And, I went on just to see, because I didn't get a chance to see the Mike Tyson fight in real time. So I wanted to see on social media, what went down, what people are saying about it. And right away, the same usual suspects. The unemployed telling the employed that it's better that they're unemployed. Okay, I get you. People that had no interest in Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. If it didn't appeal to you, look the other way. Talk about something that you like. But no, everybody has to make their comment because misery loves company and bitter bitches need that tweet hand job so badly. And it happened again tonight with Sting. Sting signs a multi-year deal. The funny thing is, if he stood in the WWE and made an appearance on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown or even NXT, that these goofs, especially the ones that have a massive hard-on for NXT, and I have no problem if NXT is your preference, but when you have to tell me that because I'm a fan of AEW, there's something wrong with me, well, guess what? There's something wrong with you. So Sting shows up. Oh, here's another old timer. Oh, this and that. And Miro and Sting and it. Shut up. Talk about stuff that you like. So anyway. Damn you, Sting. I wanted to open up talking about Pat Patterson, obviously. Now, I know a lot of you out there, are younger than me. So, Pat Patterson, why is my doorbell ringing at 10:15 at night? Do you hear that? Listen to that. Why is my doorbell ringing at 10:15 at night? I'm not answering the door, obviously. Maybe that's Lasership. Lasership is a shipping company that ships and they deliver like really, really late. Wow, that's creepy. Remember the last show? I don't know if it was a Patreon show. It was like 11:30 at night and my doorbell rang and I went inside. I creeped out. I look at the front door and there's nobody there. I don't know. Maybe it's disgruntled people on the net. Somehow they hacked into my doorbell. They're trying to get me to see the doorbell's ringing again. The fuck is going on? I can't stop the show. I'm in my boxer shorts. I ain't answering the door at 10:15 at night. Sorry. But anyway, that's creepy, man. That scares the shit out of me. But anyway, most of you out there are younger than me. And probably what you know mostly about Pat Patterson is, unfortunately, the fact that he was dragged into the controversy with Mel Phillips back in the day and, all that garbage. You know him about Patterson and Briscoe, Vince McMahon's lackeys back in the Attitude Era. Recently won the 24/7 championship from Drake Maverick. That's probably the extent. And obviously, a little bit of tributes here and there online. Pat Patterson, you see all the tributes in pro wrestling. You see the video package tonight that they did on NXT. Nice little opening moment of silence for Pat Patterson as well. There's not many people, and look, I don't know Vince McMahon personally, but there's not many people that I look at in the world of pro wrestling and I say, you know what? That person probably would bring a tear to Vince McMahon's eye. Gorilla Monsoon, definitely one of them. Mean Gene Okerlund, probably one of them. There's a very small group of people, and I truthfully believe at the top of that list, other than family, I personally think Pat Patterson is number one at the top of the list as far as the relationship, the tightness that Vince McMahon had with someone else. That man, was an excellent pro wrestler, loved his work with Raider Crippler Stevens before he ever went to the WWF. He was the innovator of the Royal Rumble. And yes, I know the Wednesday show is mostly an AEW and NXT recap, but if you don't mind, let me share about 2 or 3 minutes, 2-3 minutes about Pat Patterson. You know, a lot of people feel that the Royal Rumble is their favorite WWE gimmick match. We've been spoiled. Us that have been wrestling fans going back to the 80s, me 1979, we're spoiled to see it from the beginning to the present. But believe it or not, it was Pat Patterson that came up with the first ever Royal Rumble. He came up with the concept. And what you're looking at right there is a banner that was advertised. I think the Kiel Auditorium was in St. Louis, Missouri. And this was a couple of months before the first ever Royal Rumble. And they tested it out in St. Louis, Missouri. Pat Patterson was not present. He's been interviewed about this many times over the years. I'm not this tremendous historian, but when you're a wrestling fan this long, there's things you remember without having to look at notes. But I did write down the card just to give you an idea, because apparently there's no footage of this. And apparently the first time they did this, it did not go over well. You know, they just had people coming out there. They didn't announce the people's names. Almost all the wrestlers that were in the match were also wrestled earlier in the night. I think the only person that did not compete in the Royal Rumble that wrestled early in the night was Billy Jack Haynes, because he had wrestled twice because the British Bulldog was a no-show. And if you notice, I'm not even looking at notes because a lot of this is from memory. But, you know, the original concept, you know, and let's be honest, anybody that goes back to watching wrestling in the early to mid 80s and you went to a, you know, house show, a local venue, you know, I brought up many times before, my uncle Mikey worked for the WWF with the Ridgewood Grove Arena. And that was my first hands-on live, you know, viewing of pro wrestling. As I got a little bit older, I was allowed to go to Madison Square Garden. But anybody that went to old wrestling house shows back in the day, if you had the privilege of seeing a battle royal live and in person, almost all the time, the wrestlers who participated all night long were in the Battle Royal. You had some exceptions like Andre and others that would only compete in the Battle Royal. They wouldn't wrestle early in the night because it's not easy to get loose, and then you tighten up because you already had your match, and then you loosen up again. So the matches that went on earlier that night, Hillbilly Jim over Nikolai Volkov, Magnificent Morocco over Cowboy Bob Orton, One Man Gang over the Junkyard Dog, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff over Ravishing Rick Rude. I don't know if they did a pose down that day, but I know Orndorff and Rick Rude were doing a lot of pose downs, you know, at house shows. Now, British Bulldog was a no-show, so they had Billy Jack Haynes team up with British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. They beat Demolition. Billy Jack Haynes wrestled again. He beat King Kong Bundy. Not bad for Billy Jack Haynes, you think about it. Sensational Sherry over Velvet McIntyre. And then you had the Royal Rumble. All the men, with the exception of Billy Jack Haynes, they came out again, and the one-man gang won that Royal Rumble. But, you know, my point is, anybody that actually were able to see a battle royal in person, many times it was uneventful because all the wrestlers you saw earlier in the day, unless it was one of or two of your favorites that got to compete, or Andre would surprise you, or the upper echelon that wouldn't wrestle a match earlier in the night would compete in the Royal Rumble. So, you know, this was not much different. The only difference was, instead of having everybody in the ring already, they started with 2 people. Every 2 minutes, they brought a new wrestler out, and they only had 12 people in the Royal Rumble. So it just felt like a battle royal with, you know, just people coming out every 2 minutes. And think about it. You know, you're looking at this, you got 12 participants, okay? Now, understand, think about it like this. Think of time for a minute. You have 2 participants that start off. 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 14 minutes, 16 minutes, 18 minutes, 20 minutes. You had 20 minutes of wrestling before the last participant came out there. Not for nothing. Some of these wrestlers, they'll do headlocks for 3-4 minutes. I mean, you don't have, you know, with the exception of 2 or 3, that's a very long time. And then if some people I don't know what the eliminations were, what order they were. The point is, if you look at it, the concept was interesting. It was a little bit different than the Battle Royal, but it wasn't what we have today. And even though Vince thought it was a colossal failure the first time around, they tweaked it. They did it in, I think it was early 88, and the rest is history. Now, one last thing I want to say about Pat Patterson. He was the first Intercontinental Champion. And, he actually won it, in a fictitious tournament. For anybody that doesn't know the story behind it, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, way before he was ever the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase signed a contract with the WWF in, I think, February of 1979. Little history for everybody out there. February 1970. I might have my month off here and there, but I'm doing this from memory. But Ted DiBiase signed around February of 79. And Ted DiBiase, in all the magazines in 79, 78, was like this big star of the future, blah, 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 big star, big star, big star. So WWF gave him a North American championship. So Ted DiBiase came into the company and was their North American champion. He didn't defeat anybody for it. 2-3 months later, Pat Patterson takes on Ted DiBiase on regular TV. It's on the WWE Network. We got to watch it, Midnight Championship Wrestling. Basically, Patterson, and just to show you how wrestling was back in the day, Pat Patterson, who was managed by the Grand Wizard, how he won the matches, he supposedly took out brass knuckles. And when he hit Ted DiBiase in the face with the brass knuckles, they paused it. They froze the frame. You were not allowed to see the actual brass knuckles hit Ted DiBiase in the face. That's from what I remember of it. So Pat Patterson wins the championship. He is still a heel. But the thing is, Pat Patterson, little by little, was at the tail end of his career. And they wanted him to go into commentating. So a couple of months later, they turned him babyface. And how they turned him babyface was the Grand Wizard, who was the manager of Pat Patterson, decided that he wanted Captain Lou Albano to manage Pat Patterson. So Grand Wizard announces that Lou Albano is going to be Pat Patterson's new manager. If you remember Pat Patterson in the 80s, he would always call Lou Albano a fat slob. A fat slob. And he said, there's no way I'm letting this fat slob manage me. And he turned babyface, and the rest was history. Now, because they didn't want to do the North American Championship anymore, in, I think it was September of 79, they announced that he won this fictitious tournament that merged the North American Championship and the South American Championship and created the Intercontinental Championship. So Pat Patterson was your first ever Intercontinental Champion in a fictitious tournament. Now, what did they do with the North American Championship? Antonio Inoki, who had a really good relationship with Vince McMahon Sr. and the WWF at the time, sometimes Inoki would come in. Sometimes you would have another Japanese star come in, and basically you would have some WWF wrestlers go to Japan. So in November of 79, Pat Patterson went to Japan. WWF was no longer acknowledging the North American Championship, so he lost it in Japan to Seiji Sakaguchi. And Sakaguchi was the North American champion for the WWF in November of 79. He kept it for over a year, but as far as the United States goes, that championship was defunct. And the rest is history. So just a little, from maybe I am a little bit of a historian. I'm a historian as a fan. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm this big encyclopedia and stuff like that, but basically that's just the cliff notes of Pat Patterson. But I've always said this over the years. The weirdest, I met Pat Patterson once, for the person that asked. I met him once. He never, as far as I remember, never went to the Ridgewood Grove Arena. But WWF would also have these little gymnasium shows in Woodhaven, Queens, which was only 5-10 minutes from where I used to live. They would have shows in Long Island, which was only about 15-20 minutes where I used to live. And my aunt, my uncle, they were also wrestling fans as well. So sometimes on a Sunday or a Saturday early evening, we would drive. I wouldn't drive. I was a kid. We would go to like Lynbrook, Long Island, and we'd see the WWF there. And for some reason, Pat Patterson would show up in Long Island, but would never show up in the Ridgeway Grove Arena. So I saw Pat Patterson one time. I think he wrestled Mr. Fuji, and I had the privilege of meeting him through my uncle. Nothing memorable from it. I met a lot of people when I was a kid. The most infamous one, obviously, is when I broke my arm and Backlund signed my cast and I was able to eat dinner with the Wild Samoans and Backlund. That was surreal as a little kid. But, you know, it was just, it was awesome. But the weirdest memory I have of Pat Patterson, well, a lot of you know already that I got married in 1999. I had my marriage annulled. A couple of months later, we were broken up. So, you know, as far as the record goes, I was never married. I paid the church, big, you know, chunk of change, and they expunged it from my record. So technically never been married. But on my honeymoon, I went to Florida. And in the condo, while we're in Florida, I turn on Monday Night Raw, and I see Pat Patterson with a shit-stained underwear. That is, I'm not kidding. And I'm not saying this to be funny, but my wedding night, not my wedding night, but my honeymoon, the number one memory that I have from my honeymoon is turning on Monday Night Raw and seeing Patterson and Briscoe in the ring. I don't know if they were against the Mean Street Posse or so. I don't remember who it was, but all I know is that he had the tighty whities on, and he had this big shit stain on his underwear. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm on my honeymoon, and this is what I'm seeing on TV. So, but anyway, Pat Patterson, 79 years old, rest in peace. You know, probably his most infamous year in pro wrestling was 1979, and he died at the age of 79. So, God rest his soul. You know, my greatest year doing all this podcasting stuff was 2003. So maybe I'll live to be 103, everybody. I'm sure some people will be like, no. So anyway, want to shout out a couple of people very quickly, if you don't mind. We're going to try to do this again. Let's see if it works. Oh, there we go. Ken terminated by DQ. What's my favorite Pat Patterson match? I played it in its entirety on the history show that I did a couple of years ago. Pat Patterson versus Sergeant Slaughter, Madison Square Garden. It was just a wild. Ever WWF shows highlights of it, you see it in black and white because they don't want to see the amount of blood that Slaughter spilled that night was incredible. But what I'll always remember from that night was Pat Patterson wearing an I Love New York shirt. Now, it was a white shirt, but it was so tight. It was so, oh my God, it was, if Pat Patterson wore a large, it had to have been a small. Or it was just the tightest shirt that I've ever seen a wrestler wearing. Oh, he's saying the intro is playing again. Oh, all right. Sorry about that. Yeah, you know, I got to remember, I got to close the intro after it ends so it doesn't play up again. So, yeah, that intro. Well, I'll say it again. My favorite match of all time for Pat Patterson was the match against Slaughter, the boot camp match, because Slaughter bled. I mean, I've seen many matches over the years where people spilled blood badly. If you have never seen the Thrill Seekers of Lance Storm and Chris Jericho versus the Heavenly Bodies from, I think, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, go out of your way and watch that match. You never have seen Jericho bleed like you saw him bleed in that match. John Cena had a match, I think, against JBL. He bled like a pig. Bill Alfonso versus Beulah McGillicuddy in ECW. Bill Alfonso, you just see it pouring like a faucet. The match that he had with Slaughter was awesome, man. It was awesome. So that is my favorite one. The interesting thing about it is if you go back and you look, WWF has some clips way before he passed, highlights of Patterson's career. And a lot of the matches that they show, he actually lost. He had some memorable wins here and there, but Pat Patterson was never this big-time main eventer, but Pat Patterson was uber talented, more than you think. And I tell you, when I heard about the news that he passed today, was I sad? No. Because Pat Patterson was not going to do anything else in the world of pro wrestling. Is it sad to have someone who you appreciated growing up no longer on this earth? Absolutely. There's always a little bit of sadness to it. But it just put a smile on my face because I think of so many times on the shows talking about Pat Patterson just in happenstance. And, I always bring up, when they showed Beyond the Mat. Or was it Wrestling with Shadows? I think it might have been Wrestling. Remember when Pat Patterson outlined the match? It was, I think, the Hearts versus, it was Steve Austin, I think Hawk Animal, Ken Shamrock, someone else, and they were in Calgary. And Pat Patterson outlined the whole match and even got Stu and Helen involved in the match. See, I got it right. Last time I said Martha. He even got them in it. And then at the very end, Pat didn't spell words that began with TH. He'd spell it with the letter D. So he would say, that's the story. That's the story. Pat Patterson, one of the most, we all say off and on over the years that Jake the Snake Roberts would be an incredible, person and creative if he could just clean up. I mean, obviously Jake is clean now, but for how many years did we all say that Jake Roberts would be an incredible mind and creative? Some people said for Raven. Some people said for others. Pat Patterson, to me, and I'm not saying this because he died, but to me, as far as me being a wrestling fan, from 1979 to the present, the most creative person as far as matches go. You have Paul Heyman and others that I absolutely loved over the years as well, but Pat Patterson, not even close, number one. Dusty, creative. I mean, there's so many, but Pat Patterson was number one. It doesn't even come close. So, Leon, was that good enough? Is that good enough? I think so. Yeah, Jeremy, I didn't get teary-eyed, because he lived to be almost 80. If you said to me, DT, you'll live to be 79 or 80, I'd be a little disappointed, but if it's that long, I'll take it. But, when they showed Pat Patterson on NXT today singing My Way, Pat Patterson would love to do karaoke. And his number one song was always Frank Sinatra, My Way. And Pat Patterson lived his life his way. I mean, when they did Legends House and he revealed about his homosexuality, we all knew that already because it was already in the news. But people made it a big deal because, of the era we live in. But that doesn't take away the fact that Pat Patterson had to hide it. For the most part, can never comfortably talk about it. And, thank God in this day and age, you could express your sexual preference, whatever you are, you don't have to be ashamed by it. I think some people out there are just way too thin-skinned and, they don't show themselves. Not because they're gay, not because they're black, not because they're transgender, not because they're a minority, not because I have zits or I'm fat. I mean, come on, man. You have a walk in the park compared to everyone else. So Pat Patterson was iconic. And that tribute that WWE showed on NXT, that's an example of what I've said many times in the past. They have tributes lined up for Patterson, Hogan, and if somebody passes, they already have a good portion of the tribute already done, and they can just queue it up. So, God bless him. Godspeed, Pat Patterson, rest in peace. Ken is asking me, do I think that Pat Patterson had a better mind than Eddie Graham? Well, I'll say this. Eddie Graham, I live in New York, and I was not treated to as much Eddie Graham over the years compared to Pat Patterson. But I do know that when Eddie Graham, when he was around, even after the fact, you saw some legends paying tribute to him for his creative mind and everything. But to me, it is nowhere near the level of Pat Patterson. And let me tell you something else. Pat Patterson was 79. Pat Patterson stopped working for the WWF many years ago. Not that many, but enough. And you see Enzo, Kevin Owens, Drake Maverick, this person. Pat Patterson still would offer advice, 2 cents, creative, little things here and there, support to the wrestlers of today. And he didn't get paid for some of this. He just did it because he loved the business. He loved pro wrestling. He loved to help the stars of tomorrow. I'm not saying Eddie Graham didn't want to do that as well, but I put Pat Patterson number 1 on the list. I don't even think it's closed. If some people are having problems with the feed tonight, my sincere apologies. There's actually nothing I could really do about it. I could tell you that my internet connection over here is strong as silk. I fixed all the problems over here. So, if you watch it back, maybe the video has a little bit of buffering here and there, but, I obviously can't shut it down now. So, but I know the audio part is perfect because I got 2 recordings going at the same time. But anyway, we're already 30 minutes in. I'm back from vacation physically, but like I said on Monday, I'm not back mentally. And I only got a good night's sleep yesterday for the first time in weeks. So I am going to, let's see if I could do anything here for the stream settings. You know what? Don't go anywhere. It's not going to shut down, but I want to do something really quick. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. That might have actually helped this a little bit. For those on video, it definitely froze for a second. You didn't miss anything, but I changed one tiny little setting. I want to see if that helps you all tonight. Audio, I could always edit the little, silence out, but, let's see how it is now. I think it might be a little bit better. So, all right. So anyway, before we get into I'm going to try one more thing over here, everybody. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to shut one other thing down over here. I want to see if this actually helps a little bit. This might actually help. Let's end this. And let's end this. All right, let's see. Maybe that fixed it a little bit. Okay. All right. All right, let's see. All right, is that a little bit better, everybody? Yeah, I don't know what it is tonight. All my settings are correct, and my internet is good, and I'm getting some people saying that the connection is fine on their end. So, honestly, I think, maybe there's something going on your end. But anyway, let's talk about AEW. Let's talk about NXT. Now, tonight was the build-up for TakeOver. No big surprises. In fact, there was a couple of matches tonight on NXT that were less than to be desired, to be honest with you. I didn't particularly enjoy, the fact that Everrise, causes a no contest. I mean, Everrise, we have said already, is kind of like And it's unfair, obviously, but you see the Young Bucks and you see their look, and you kind of have comparisons of the two, even though they don't wrestle anywhere near the same. But to see them like throw out a match, like, come on, man, you're in the middle of WarGames. Last week, depending on who you talk to, they either beat NXT, AEW in the ratings 712,000 to 700,000. No, excuse me, 712,000 to 710,000, or somehow today, kind of like the election, suddenly AEW picked up 2,000 viewers, and it was tied. It was tied. Mish and I had a conversation Monday about this. People out there that just can't accept the fact that sometimes NXT is going to win in a rating, that they have to add the extra line. But AEW won every demographic except for over 50. The fact is, 710,000 viewers a week before the Omega Moxley match. Don't give me this, it was the day before Thanksgiving. NXT had more viewers the day before Thanksgiving than the week before. Last year, there was only 40,000 more fans watching wrestling. This was before COVID. So, when you keep making excuses, you put unnecessary pressure on AEW. Unnecessary pressure. Because, look, I could win the 18 to 34 demographic doing a show on YouTube about wrestling at a certain time in the night. But if I only have 100 viewers and I won the demographic, 100 viewers is kind of embarrassing. Now, of course, I know some of you access only, audio only, and this and that. But my point is, just post the ratings, and that's it. You don't see other sports. You don't see, who you see who talk about demographics? TV people, executives, people who work in advertising, trying to buy advertisers. Not these goofs that do wrestling news websites and podcasts. You're the only fucking people on God's green earth, for the most part, that talk about demo. You don't see works. Of course, if they dominate a demo, you brag about it. But these people make excuses for AEW, and I'm a big AEW fan as well. So, I just think you just report the numbers and that's it. Stop with this, because what happens if AEW does kind of a shitty rating today? Especially hyping up the biggest match of the year, Omega versus Moxley. What are you going to do? So anyway, Lion says NHL always complains about viewership numbers. I get it. But the point is, who is NHL going up against? A different form of hockey? I mean, you don't see other places doing this. And it's like, when they report about Raw or SmackDown, many times, what do? Hour 1, hour 2, for Mondays, hour 3. They don't break up demos. They might mention one demo, but they don't talk about demos all that much. But yet, when it comes to AEW, they gotta throw demos to make excuses. Whether it's to bash NXT or to try to, the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you only had 710,000 viewers. Yeah, but the 18 to 34 are the ones that actually buy stuff. Well, you only had, X amount of people tuning in. That's the bottom line. You want to get as many people to tune into your product as well. It's just amazing, the crap that you see. So now, what rating do we say that tonight should be what would you say the rating should be for AEW that would be considered a very good rating, especially hyping up Omega versus Moxley? 850? Does 850 sound like a reasonable number? I mean, 850 is not a bad number, but I personally think anything under $900, or I'll say this. If AEW does a rating under 850, but the quarter hours for Moxley versus Omega did 9 or a million plus, then I could accept that. But if they do Shangada ratings today, that's not good. That's not good. And let's get into it. And I also want to bring up this. Tony Khan did a media call. Tony Khan did a media call talking about Dynamite, talking about Miro, talking about a few other topics. And I checked it out. And a lot of people are saying 900,000 plus is the minimum to be considered a decent rating, especially for Omega Moxley. Look, the Sting debut, let me say this, and I've said this since the 90s doing shows. There's a lot of people that had no intention on watching AEW tonight. Not everybody sits on social media while wrestling is on television. So you can't say, well, because Sting was on tonight, they had to have popped the rating. There is going to be a lot of people who did not tune into AEW tonight that are going to see that the rating, was whatever it is, but you're going to realize a lot of people will be like, I had no idea that Sting was going to be on, blah, 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 and they'll watch it on a replay. So, no, Sting was not the draw today, Jody, because a lot of people had no idea Sting was going to be on. And again, not a lot of people sit on social media while wrestling is on. So people that are watching only NXT or don't watch wrestling on Wednesday at all, they're going to find out after the fact about Sting. I'll be honest with you. As ridiculous as this sounds, I think AEW's rating next week should be higher than this week. Moxley and Omega should definitely pop a rating. Maybe Sting gets a little tiny bump for the people who are on social media that, started seeing people posting, holy shit, Sting is on TV, Sting is on TV, and then they turn for a second. But if you think that Sting showing up is going to cause 100,000 plus viewership, that's not going to happen. Cody and Darby Allin being in the match might spike the rating itself. That's why I'm hoping. I wasn't paying attention at the exact time, but I'm hoping Sting's appearance led into the next quarter. You understand? I don't want Sting's appearance to be in the same quarter as the full match. The match went long, so it should have trickled into the next quarter. I want to see what that increase in viewership is. But a couple of things on the media call for Tony Khan that caught my eye. First off, he said that there's going to be more themed, events on Dynamite, which is fine. No complaints there. He said that, he'd like for AEW Dark possibly to break up into almost like two programs, one for developmental talents and one for more, like the next level up, which is not a bad idea, but I don't really see that happening because it's YouTube. And, if you put let's be honest, you put all the developmental talent on just one specific show, and you don't include any upper tier talent, people may just skip over that show entirely. Oh, let me watch this instead. And it's very unfair to have, the young, inexperienced people on one separate show. And then you look at the viewers and you see how the internet is. You'll see people writing, oh, look, this part of Dark, that had just the developmental and the people that only did this. But the next tier up on Dark did this. It's very unfair. Keep it together. That's just my opinions. I don't know what's going on, but Brody Lee, they asked about Brody Lee, and he said that he hopes to have him back soon. He hopes. I mean, I don't know. If you go back and you listen to it, it seemed like Tony Khan was trying to really dodge that subject. Tony Khan, I mean, I know some people have some issues with some of the things that he says, but many times he is a straight shooting guy. And if it was something about COVID or something health-wise or, I think he would just say, look, he's got some family stuff or some personal things to attend to. We hope to have him back soon. That's it. But the way he said it, it was almost like, I hope he comes back soon. I hope. Like I don't know, it was something really, really strange about that. And he also said that Jon Moxley would not be wrestling for Wrestle Kingdom. Wrestle Kingdom, if I understand correctly, is about a month from now. And remember, if you go overseas and then you come back, if he is even allowed to, I don't know what the travel details are for Japan right now, but it may force him to go into quarantine for 2 weeks before he could appear on AEW television again. Now you see what happened tonight. You kind of feel that there's got to be rematches and other things going on. So Moxley going to Japan right now, I think, would be a big mistake. I know a lot of you out there would love to see him working Wrestle Kingdom. I think it would be a big mistake. Mortalica, if Brody Lee is still injured, then all Tony Khan had to say, look, he's still recovering from an injury. That would have been it. Case closed. But the way that he said it, I mean, maybe I just read into it a little bit too much, but, it just, I don't know. It felt like there's something else that's not being discussed. Yeah, Mortalica, great point. Excellent point. There's no way Moxley is going to go to Japan leaving his pregnant wife at home. That's another thing. Spot on. So, another thing that he said, he's considering a trios title. They were thinking about doing a trios title. I don't like the idea. I mean, the tag team division is phenomenal. Then you're going to start, what are you going to do? You're going to have Hudat and, a gun member. It's just the more you think about that, I'm not feeling that at all. So, Jeremy said the main event was like watching a Jets game. Look, I'll be honest with all of you out there. I enjoyed the unsanctioned match between Omega and Moxley 1,000 times more than tonight. Tonight was very physical. The camera work, and I don't know if you could really blame the camera work, but I think a lot of you out there, we know that this is entertainment, but there's a couple of things when you're watching it over and over and over happening. It gets to a point where you're like, man, when I watch a movie, watching like a horror film or Jason or Freddy, if he's going to kill someone, the knife has got to connect. It's got to connect. And when you see V-trigger after V-trigger after V-trigger, missing, you go back what I said about some of the younger stars of tomorrow in AEW. They are great. They're going to be big stars if they continue the path they're on. But when you have people bending down, waiting extra time to be hit, that's unacceptable. And you've seen that over. Look at when the Young Bucks got attacked by the Hybrid 2 tonight when they were in the back being interviewed. One of the Young Bucks got attacked right away. And I don't remember if it was Matt Jackson, but the other Young Buck just stood there for an extra second. It was like, then he got hit. It's that split second. The young stars probably have to focus on timing more than anything else. Some of the older stars, maybe that timing it goes away, so you have to compensate somewhere else. But that standing there for the extra half a second or a second, waiting to be hit, that I got news for you. I know a lot of you out there are sick of tope suicidas, the suicide dive outside the ring. I know a lot of you out there are sick of certain finishers by 10,000 people. For me, the one thing that irks me more than anything else are the wrestlers who wait the extra second to be hit, that they bend down and they're like this, waiting for it. It happened tonight a little bit with Jungle Boy when they were in the match, the Battle Royal. And speaking of the Battle Royal, because we could get into that right now, MJF and Orange Cassidy won the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal. I know some of you out there that aren't used to the AEW rules and their kind of gimmicks. We have two people win. Well, that leads to a match next week. It's basically milking it for 2 weeks. I've been saying all year long that you see things taking an extra week too many times. We talked about it with Brit Baker and Thunder Rosa 2 weeks ago. Thunder Rosa and Brit Baker go at it. that storyline has to continue the following week. It takes a week off. Look at this week. Abaddon shows up and she grabs the title. And you have a backstage interview with Karashida, and apparently she gets spooked because somebody dropped a pot in catering. But there's no it's just like, and it happened, to me, most notorious, Santana and Ortiz versus Best Friends. The finale of their feud was phenomenal. One of my favorite matches of the year, that parking lot brawl. But there were many times where they destroy Mom's car, and then the following week, nothing. They destroyed gear in the shower. The following week, nothing. They destroyed Eliza. The following week, nothing. Look at the stuff with Best Friends and Miro in the video games. 1 week, something happens. The next week, nothing. And look, Tony Khan said, he said on this media call that not every storyline can be carried over to the following week. Okay. So you only do the ones that you can carry over to the following week. What you do is you do something, it carries over to the following week, and then something happens, then you take the week off. Because for me, the worst thing that happens, look, you ever hear the phrase cooler heads prevail? You know, you're driving, somebody cuts you off, you start chasing, you get pissed off, you start yelling at each other, and then a minute or two later, you calm down like, it's no big deal, nobody got hurt, and the person says, look, I'm sorry to say, and you realize you both yelled for nothing. Cooler heads prevail after a little bit of time. But in the heat of the moment, something happens, you gotta have your, a little bit of, peace about it. And AEW does that way too many times. Way too many times. Look at the stuff they were doing with Killian Dane and Drake Maverick. It was like every other week. And now look what happened. There's no momentum. When you do a week on, a week off, a week on, a week off, a week on, a week off, you lose a hell of a lot of momentum. Hell of a lot of momentum. So, but the Battle Royal today, you had members of the Dark Order. You have Miro, Kip Sabian, members of the Inner Circle, Jungle Boy. Look, Matt Hardy was in it. Private Party was in it. Sean Spears. The Battle Royal was okay. Now, how it started, everybody was outside the ring. And then once Justin Roberts announced the Battle Royal, everybody went in and started brawling. This match was all about Benjamin talking about before. He said it's like when TNA was 1 hour and people appeared every other week. Yeah. And think about that. That was only a 1 hour show. I know AEW wants story. Look at Nyla Rose and look at Jade Cargill and Brandy. Where did all that momentum go? It flew away. There's the momentum. It flew away. They're trying to do too many things at the same time. They're trying to do too many. You start thinking about certain things over the last 2 weeks, and it's just gone. It's just, we could keep going. And by the way, I don't know how you all feel about this, but this Inner Circle storyline, I'll be honest with you, man. What they did tonight, I thought was the drizzling shits, and I'll tell you why. The Battle Royal, for me, most of the match was all about Miro. Miro was dominating. And people are getting eliminated. He's dominating everybody. And there was one cool point where him and Wardlow were going at it a little bit, but it came down to Miro, Jungle Boy, MJF, Wardlow, Sammy Guevara, and Orange Cassidy. People forgot. They thought he was eliminated, but he was outside the ring doing nothing. It is what it is. But what ends up happening is Miro is dominating. And Miro was talked about on the media call as well. And, Tony Khan says that 2021 will be a big year for Miro. I truly believe that. I have said for a while, this guy, if you know where he came from before he was even a wrestler, You know, this guy seems to be having a lot of fun right now. You know, it doesn't mean because you have to main event and have these important title matches that if you're not having that, then, oh, you suck and you're this, you're that, you're being misuser. You know, you go to work. You go to work and you usually have to pack out shelves in a supermarket. Or you have to stand at a cash register for 8 hours. Or you work behind the counter at a post office for 8 hours. And then you show up for work for the next month and like, hey, you know what? You know, just sit aside and just, you know, you could watch TV, watch the net, do whatever you want. Just, you know, just be alert if any fights happen or anything like that. And you realize for a month that you're just chilling, hanging out, not having to do too much. You don't have to stand. You mean to tell me that if you're getting a nice pay and you get a little bit of a mental and a physical break for a little while and you do a little work here and there, you're going to complain? You know, I just, again, it's weird. But the people that criticize about Miro are the ones that don't like AEW. And, oh, God forbid he gets employment somewhere else. That's a bad thing. I will never take diet advice from someone who is 500 pounds. I will never take employment advice for someone who is not only out of work, but is lazy as fuck. You know, there's some, you know, you leave it to the experts, or you leave it to your friends, or you leave it to people who you know who have been battle tested, because those are the ones that are going to help you more than anything else. You know, the stuff I saw with Sting tonight, do you fucking even know what this man is going to do in AEW? Do you even know? Do you even know? I mean, just like people, oh, I gotta criticize. I need to hold them. I love the unemployed telling other people who are employed they should be unemployed. Anyway, getting back to the Battle Royal. Miro dominated the whole match, and then like a wet fart, the three members of the Inner Circle eliminate him. It just felt so uneventful, especially at the end when you got the Inner Circle are pretty much the ones trying to eliminate Miro. And after the match is over, Miro comes out and he's angry. He wants to murder people, not physically, you know, just, you know, figuratively. But yet he's more angry at Orange Cassidy and Best Friends. That's what it felt like. It's like, come on, go play a video game. And I'm talking storyline right now. But anyway, so Miro gets eliminated. Then it comes down to the Inner Circle and Jungle Boy. And yes, like I said, Orange Cassidy, a lot of people thought he was eliminated. He was outside the ring. There was one point towards the end of the match that was a lot of fun. Jungle Boy and Sammy Guevara are battling outside on the ring apron, and they're doing reversals, flips, kicks. I mean, they gelled beautifully. But there was a point that was very weird. If you go back and you watch the final 5-6 minutes of the match, there was one point where MJF and Guevara are just laying in the corner. And it was funny because Guevara was just like spread out posed, you know, like almost like leaning against MJF's like crotch, not sexually, but just like chilling. And, you know, it's just, I know it was just a little bit weird because, you know, what ends up happening is Jungle Boy and Guevara are going at it. And Guevara's on the middle rope. Jungle Boy goes on the top rope, puts Guevara up there as well. Looks like he's going to do a suplex. And MJF pushes Jungle Boy off. And Jungle Boy and Guevara go over the top rope. They get eliminated. So, yes, I could see why Guevara would be a little bit annoyed, you know, that maybe it was intentional, maybe it was inadvertent, but Guevara and Jungle Boy get eliminated. Then you got Orange Cassidy, Wardlow, and MJF. And Orange Cassidy is hitting orange punches to Wardlow, to MJF, and it ends up that OC eliminates Wardlow. So MJF and Orange Cassidy win. They will fight next week. And whoever wins, what do they do? Are they doing the $15,000 thing next week as well? Who's going to present it? It's Diamond Dallas Page. Now, does MJF have to give the ring back? Like, does he only hold the ring for a year? And then is that the procedure? I don't know if that's the procedure. Oh no, we will get to Leyla Hirsch, Ken, in a moment. So the Battle Royal was a little messy. You know, if you go back, I think the number one problem, and this happened in TNA, let's be honest, TNA let it go way too long. And for us that like spots here and there, it was wonderful. But you remember me about 15 years ago, and I used to talk about how all the X Division wrestlers were like Undertaker, that they would get knocked out with a finisher, and they just bounce right back up because they want to land their finisher. How many times you see an X Division match that, Sabin gets knocked on his ass. He pops right back up, hits his finisher. Who's the Elix Skipper with the big neck? He gets knocked out. He just jumps up and hits his finisher. Here's this person. Here's Amazing Red, and here's Loki, and here's this. And you'd have 10 people, one after the other. Finisher. Because they want to showcase what they got. And that's, I think, a little bit of a problem in AEW. You know, you can't, just keep getting up so you can nail your finisher and get a little. Sometimes you got to just suck it up. You take your bumps and that's it. But some people just, I don't know. That's a little bit of a problem, and it was a little bit messy tonight. So now match is over. Best friends come out to celebrate. Mirdo and Kip Sabian come out. They're being held back by officials, blah, 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 blah. Chris Jericho with Jake Hager, Santana, and Ortiz. Chris Jericho beats Frankie Kazarian. Here's where I hated the storyline. It was only 2 weeks ago that we had them getting drunk, getting stoned, partying like mofos in Vegas. And when you have a family and you have people fighting with each other, you don't, after 1 or 2 weeks, this is bullshit. This is enough. If we don't get on the same page, we're splitting up. It's over. It's this. It's that. You were just in Vegas 2 weeks ago in a storyline. So what happens today? MJF comes out with a towel because Kazarian had Jericho in, I think, like a Boston crab. And MJF comes out with a towel, not teasing that he's going to throw, but he's got it and he's looking at it. So all of us at home were saying like, oh my God, MJF's going to throw in a towel and, give Kazarian a win. Sammy Guevara pulls the towel away from MJF. And if you focus only on them, it was a stupid, odd 2 minutes of television because MJF was arguing with Guevara because Guevara pulled the towel away. And if you follow only them as Jericho is reversing this, grabbing the rope, doing this, and they're going at it, Kazarian and Jericho, for 2 more minutes. If you focus only on outside the ring, Guevara would walk away, and then he'd get right back in MJF's face. What are you doing with the towel? Why are you doing this and that? And then he would walk away. And then 5 seconds later, what are you doing with the towel? They did that like 3 times. It was so dumb. And then Jericho wins. And then there's push aparts, pull aparts, this person, this, and Jericho, this is bullshit, this is bullshit. Next week, you got 7 days for the ultimatum. If we cannot be on the same page, the inner circle splits up. 2 weeks after the Las Vegas stuff. Talk about hot-shotting storylines to pop a number. I thought it was, look, it's funny and it's entertaining. I like out of this entire storyline, I don't know if anybody agrees with me on this, I like the dynamic with Wardlow and Hager. All they do is just stare at each other. They just stare at each other. And sometimes I think they do that to try to see if they could get the other one to break and laugh. I like the dynamic. But trust me, Hydro, it was nothing. It was nothing like Owen throwing in that towel. That was painful. I mean, God rest his soul, but Helen Hart, I got it right again. Helen Hart, like, I'm sorry for being a little bit of a jerk. That's what I am sometimes. But you go back and you watch that match with Backlund and Bret Hart, and Owen Hart is trying to get his mom to throw the towel in. And it's like Chris Van Vliet when he does an interview. It's just like, what are you doing here? What's your favorite color? What do you think of this? You like it? Do you like pizza? What's your favorite lemonade? What's your favorite? Like Helen Hart. Like, you didn't know if she was smiling or if she was in pain or if she was sad. Because she'd be with the towel. But I still got my Halloween costume over here. She'd be with the towel and she'd be like this. I'm telling you, go back and watch it. She'd be like this. And that went on for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Wadio. Haters. You. Anyway. Yeah, I got to put that stuff away. My place is a mess right now. Oh, and by the way, let me just throw this out the way. I know I already said this on one of my other shows, but I know someone out there is going to try to stir something up. And some people out there, they immediately think that, I'm trying to insult people. This shirt has zero to do with any one person. I went on $6shirts.com and I bought every shirt that I could find that was cheap, that had kind of a funny phrase to it. This is nothing about anybody, so please, for those out there, you cut it out. It was funny. We're not even going to talk about that tonight. Another night. Not tonight. Like Goodfellas. Not tonight. And they were going to kill Maury, and Robert De Niro's like, not tonight. Not tonight. But no, this is not intended for anybody. I just feel like wearing it, and there's a garbage pail next to it. So, by the way, is the buffering better now? I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was, it's got to be a YouTube thing, because like I said, I'm popping out 500 megabytes a second now. And I'm looking at my connections and I see big green lights, which means green is go. Green means good. So, but anyway, oh yeah, Hydro. Yeah, let the haters hate, man. I did dead in my eyes. Seriously. We're having fun. That's all that matters. Seriously. So next week we got the ultimatum. The ultimatum. Big fucking deal. 2 weeks ago, I mean, this should be like a movie. And it's like somebody gets married and next thing you know, they're like having their 50th wedding anniversary like 10 minutes later. They were just in Vegas 2 weeks ago, smoking blunts with Conan. And 2 weeks later, stop, this is bullshit. It's 1 fucking week that there's been dissension. I don't know, I thought it was kind of stupid. So, Young Bucks interviewed in the back, and I loved the Acclaim's rap. Talking about the Young Bucks and the cover of their book, and it looks like they're looking at each other's junk. Keep the Acclaimed on your radar. Obviously, the personality and the promos, and it might feel a little bit reminiscent of old school John Cena Thugonomics. I get it. But keep that team on your radar. I know we all feel Top Flight is definitely on the right path and they're going to be future stars. The Acclaimed might actually leapfrog them. And if you haven't seen them, Anthony Bowens especially, go on YouTube, check out some of their work. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. They're very young still, but trust me, there's something there. There's something there. And I liked what they did today. I really do. Obviously you can't compare them to, Cena's stuff or anything like that. These are up-and-coming guys. But, man, I'm telling you, 6 months from now, it should be very interesting to see where they fit in AEW. But next week, we're going to get the Young Bucks versus the Hybrid 2 non-title match. If they win, then they get a title match against the Young Bucks. Dustin Rhodes versus 10, I'm going to do a number 1 or a number 2 when 10 comes out. Nothing against 10, but, am I really interested in that? You have FTR versus the Varsity Blondes of Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr., which should be interesting. I don't know how much offense they're going to allow these guys to go with FTR, but I kind of like the team of Pillman and Garrison kind of a little bit of a throwback. You know, I like it. Abaddon will be in action next week. Next week it'll be Lance Archer and the Lucha Bros versus the Butcher, the Blade, and Eddie Kingston. You know, we all talked about that about a week or two ago. For some reason, Pac is not in this match. Okay, you know, it is what it is. Sting, and we'll get to his appearance in a moment, but Sting will appear next week, and he will be doing an interview. So, you know, I'll get back to that in a moment. And next week also MJF versus Orange Cassidy. I don't think I'm leaving out any matches. So right now, you know, as we speak, that's pretty much what we know is lined up. Obviously, the main event kind of threw that in a little bit of disarray. Dr. Brit Baker beating Leyla Hirsch. I know for some people out there, it's very easy for them to crack jokes about her height, Leyla Hirsch. But Leyla Hirsch can go. She really can go. And yes, heels will always bring up the height factor in her and stuff, but she actually, when she wears that legit, she actually is pretty legit. I mean, yeah, it is kind of a shame that, you know, God didn't give her more height, but for what she has, she actually does pretty damn good. The match with Brit Baker was okay. The Reba stuff, again, I have nothing personal against Rebel, Reba, whatever you want to call it. I even think Shivani made the mistake and called her Rebel today. But she's not very good, especially when they did the pull apart with Brit Baker and Thunder Rosa. Go back and look at it. Reba tried to cheap shot Thunder Rosa, and if you look at it, it was so bad that Thunder Rosa just like, she looked like she just no-sold it. She's like, yeah. And what are you going to do now? It just, even the stuff outside the ring. I mean, I have nothing against her personally, but Reba, I in my opinion, as far as regulars characters on the main show, to me, she's probably got to be the biggest crutch of them all. She brings nothing, absolutely nothing. You know, it is Rebel, not Reba. I call her Reba. I thought it was Reba. Isn't her social media Rebel, but it's Reba? I think, but she is just terrible. She's just terrible. I'm sorry. I'm just expressing my opinions. But the match with Britt Baker and Leyla Hirsch was fine. You know, Leyla Hirsch got to show a little bit of her submission work, a lot of arm bars, a lot of reversals. You know, there was a couple of points. You know, she nailed Britt Baker with some great knees, submission moves, and Britt Baker was, you know, like just kicking out of everything. You know, it's, I don't know. I mean, it was a decent match, but I think if you're going to have Britt Baker obviously go on over on this one, it should have been more abrupt and maybe a little bit less of her basically kicking out of everything, because Leyla Hirsch, look, anybody has seen her on Dark, you know she actually can go. But you put her on Dynamite, and for a lot of people's first impression of her, she could give Britt Baker everything but the kitchen sink, and Britt Baker just kicks out of everything. That doesn't help Leyla Hirsch. And then when you add the fact that Leyla Hirsch, she's small, and some people, you know, they'll crack jokes that she's the size of a midget and everything like that, you really hurt. You know, there's always a saying you don't get a second chance at a first impression. Leyla Hirsch did fine tonight, but I personally think the match should have been done a little bit differently. But Britt Baker does get the win. You see, in storyline, Britt calls her Reba. I always called her Reba. And I even think on her social media, don't even ask me why I know this, but I think on her social media she writes, it's Rebel. You know, be happy that you have your name. Was my light over here? I just realized that my light was in the picture, I think. Yeah, I think so. So anyway, after the match is over, Thunder Rosa shows up. I know a lot of people find it a hard sell, Brit Baker and Thunder Rosa. Kind of, different levels as far as, caliber goes and ability. But you know what? Would you rather have Thunder Rosa against Brit Baker or no Thunder Rosa at all? They're keeping her away from, the AEW Women's Championship. They're keeping her away from Hikaru Shida. They're keeping her away now with Serena Deeb. While all this is going on, Serena Deeb and the NWA title is, now, an afterthought. When Britt Baker cuts the promo and says Thunder Rosa does not belong here, if you think of the storyline, Britt Baker should be saying that about Serena Deeb, not Thunder Rosa. But I know Serena Deeb is an employee of AEW, but if you really think about it closely, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But we see where this is going to go. We get Cody and Darby Allin versus Ricky Starks, and that's everything. Every picture of Will Hobbs now is this. But the match was fine. We're all going to remember this match for what happened afterwards. Towards the end of the match, you had Cody, hitting a lot of offense, did a dive outside. Darby Allin tagged himself in. They were both beating up Ricky Starks. I think Will Hobbs was outside the ring. There was, I'll get to that in a second, but, the commentators try to expand these storylines a little bit, if you notice. And what they were trying to say is that Jim Ross was trying to tease that maybe Cody didn't expect Darby to tag himself in. That maybe that was something that Cody wanted to finish himself. Problem with Jim Ross saying that is when Darby Allin made the tag, Cody proceeded to do a massive dive over the top rope onto Will Hobbs and was laid out there for a while. So if you think of what Jim Ross said, Cody would have been counted out or close to counted out. It just didn't make sense. When you go back and you listen to what Jim Ross was saying, Cody dived over the top rope. He didn't try to go for the pin, but Darby ends up hitting the coffin drop on the Ricky Starks, gets the win. After the match is over, you have both guys beating up on Darby Allin. That's why I say, everybody out there who's complaining about Sting, you don't even know what the man is going to do yet. And the reason why I say that is because how many times has Team Taz or anybody, Lance Archer and others, beat the fuck out of Cody? And Arn Anderson is outside with his clipboard. For some reason, this week, with Will Hobbs in the ring, beating up on Darby Allin, Arn Anderson hits the ring. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, trying to hit Will Hobbs in the back. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Actually threw a couple of punches too. But then they started beating down Arn Anderson. And as I'm watching this, I had no idea Sting was coming out. Anybody that says, I knew they were going to do. As I'm watching this, I'm saying to myself, why is Arn Anderson getting physically involved all of a sudden? I could see if it's a one-on-one and he hits a spine buster for nostalgic purposes. But this week was weird, man. It was weird. Arn Anderson trying to stop Will Hobbs, it just didn't look good. And Arn Anderson is laid out on the mat. I thought Taz was going to lock the Taz mission on Arn Anderson. Now, that would have been pretty damn good. But he's laid out. And the next thing you know, the lights go out. And we see the screen, and they're doing the winter is coming and this and that. And honestly, for a split second, I thought Glacier was coming out. Glacier actually has been wrestling a little bit. Didn't he do some stuff in Ring of Honor? Everybody said it was good. When they kept showing winter and the trees and all, but they did show, if I recall, didn't they show one black crow? I thought they showed one black crow that was in the snow, in the trees. But the lights come back on, and we see Sting the name Sting on the Titantron. He comes out and he pulls a bat out from, the middle of his pants. Hair dyed, face paint like before. And that is him hitting in the ring. Let's be honest, man. 60 years old. He looks good. He looks good still. He doesn't look beat up. He looks fine. Once again, you don't know what he is going to do. He hit the ring. Tony Schiavone, a lot of nostalgia, yelling at the top of his lungs, Sting. First time he's on TNT since 2001. He comes out, didn't hit anybody. It was just a stare down. But my favorite picture of the night is when Sting actually did his scream, and you see Darby Allin on the bottom. I mean, that's kind of what my reaction was when I saw Mike Tyson actually doing what he was doing in the ring Saturday. And to see Sting out there, that's a good thing, man. That's a good thing. People were talking about how, WWE, what are they going to do with Sting? Oh, they pulled his merchandise. And look, we all had rumors that Sting was going to be coming into AEW. But again, he looks good. Yes, he's 60. Okay. I brought up the other day Ricky Steamboat. Ricky Steamboat. When he took on Jericho in 2009, Ricky Steamboat was like 55, 56. I'm not saying that Sting is going to do what Ricky Steamboat did. Sting, I think, might be battling spinal stenosis. But my point is, the guy is on TV. He's a character. He's entertained us since the 80s. All right? There's never been a part of Sting's career that you said, wow, this is the drizzling shits. All right, maybe the Joker character was kind of goofy, but the point is, I could see if this was someone that over his career, there's been a lot of points like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. This sucks, this sucks, this sucks. He sucks, he sucks, he sucks. It wasn't that long ago when he did what he did with Seth Rollins, and it wasn't that bad. He obviously had the injury. My point is, he signed with AEW, and people jumping the gun, assuming they know what Sting is going to be doing there. And, it's just enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of nostalgia once in a while. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I don't understand this crack addiction that when someone goes over a certain age, or it's somebody you don't like, or like you got to like race to go on the internet to write that catchy tweet to get attention to yourself. If you don't watch AEW, if you're not interested in Sting going there, then how's about talking about NXT? Did you see all the goofs on social media tonight that love NXT, hate AEW, and all they did was tweet negative about AEW? Not one positive tweet about NXT. That's a wrestling fan? Or is that some unemployed, loser at home, no relationship, and more interested in getting attention? Oh, I feel good. I went to sleep tonight. I got 50 likes. I feel better. I feel important. I feel relevant. Do you want relevancy? You want status? That's why, like I said, man, I tweeted 3 times on Twitter in the last 6 days. My Twitter relationship is about 95% done. You want to really enjoy wrestling more? Stay off of social media while you're doing it. If you want to chat with a couple of your friends, you're tight with, and you have like Discord or something else, do it that way. But this social media stuff, man, people just don't, just don't want to focus on what they like. They want to focus on what they dislike. And that's a shame, man. That's a shame. So Flynn, AEW fans usually don't criticize NXT. they usually will brag about AEW. But you tell me what about NXT that's so bad? For AEW, seriously, for big-time, hardcore AEW fans that are tuning in live right now that don't watch NXT, tell me what you would criticize about NXT. Seriously. You know, you look at the women's division in NXT, it's solid. You look at some of the guys working their ass off, it's solid. Some of the storylines and the gimmicks are kind of shangada sometimes. But seriously, you notice majority, and I'm giving credit to AEW fans right now. AEW fans, for the most part, they don't criticize NXT. They might criticize the ratings. But as far as the performers, they usually don't bring up the performers. You know? They usually will put over AEW and say why it's better than NXT. But there's a difference between saying I'm better than you or you're worse than me. You understand? I used to do this up until around 2008. When I started doing the podcast in 0304, around there, I used to make fun of every webcast out there. And I would name them by name. And I would just do it every week. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? You know, I don't want people tuning in to me because this sucks, this person sucks, this person sucks. I want people to tune in because they like me. They think I'm better than them. And honestly, AEW fans, for the most part, usually do not criticize the NXT wrestlers themselves. Seriously. They usually will crap on WWE. You're right, Flynn. They will crap on WWE or they'll crap on ratings. But do you hear them ever saying anything about the Undisputed Era? Do you ever hear them ever saying stuff about the women's division in NXT? Do you ever see them saying anything about Triple H? Or usually don't. Usually don't. So anyway, so we got Sting in AEW now, signed a multi-year contract with AEW. And we'll see next week, you know, how much they reveal and what he's going to be doing over there. I talked about Hikaru Shida earlier. The main event tonight, Moxley versus Omega. Biggest match of the year. You had Don Callis doing commentary. You had Don Callis on commentary. Now I understand Don Callis is on commentary to support Kenny Omega in the tournament. But to keep having Don Callis come out there, it was a little odd. It was a little strange. I personally, I mean, now obviously we see that there's a storyline behind this. But Don Callis is on commentary for this main event match. And I know some of you are having some buffering. I apologize. Nothing I could do about it. But you have Don Callis on commentary. And as I said earlier, the match was fine. It got very physical. You know, obviously this was not a no DQ match, even though they let them really go. But you basically, you know, look, they worked their asses off. They did a spot where there were two chairs in the ring, and they're both sitting in the chairs, and they're punching each other back and forth. And Omega hits the V trigger. The end was really what everybody was talking about. This was so strange. I mean, again, I understand. All right. I just rebooted it, everybody. Hopefully it's a little better. Like I said, there's nothing. All right, let's see if this helps a little bit. All right, I just rebooted the whole thing, everybody. I just rebooted the whole thing. All right, let's see if this fixed it. I think this might have fixed it, everybody. All right, let's see if this fixed it. If not, we're going to have to call it. I think it's a YouTube issue, everybody. Yeah, I think it's a YouTube issue. I'm just giving it a second to see. All right, this might actually fix it. I'm dead serious now. All right, let's see if this fixed it. Oh, this is going to be funny. No. Wow. I just rebooted the whole computer. Is it all right now? I think it's okay. I think we're good. Are we good? I just rebooted the computer. Wow, this is going to play back and look awfully bad. This is going to look awfully bad, everybody. I think it's okay. I mean, the audio part of it will be just fine. But, man, and, you know, we didn't even pick the winner yet as far as that stuff. Hold on. Let me pull up my notes. I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're good. I rebooted the computer, everybody. All right, let me, hold on. I just got to do one last thing over here. Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, we are good. All right. Good deal. All right, we are back. They couldn't ruin it for us. I just rebooted the computer. I honestly don't know what caused that. I sincerely apologize. You know, I mean, maybe from the computer updating stuff the last couple of days that, you know, it just needed a good reboot. But, man, I don't want to watch back that 5 minutes of pain. I mean, it kept cutting off, so it didn't record that. But I got to do, obviously, the audio part a little bit later. So, anyway, we're back in business. So, let's talk about the main event. Let's get into the main event very quickly. What I was saying before, and look, everyone, thank you for sticking with me. You know me, you know, this is unacceptable, and I try to do everything possible to fix it, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I just needed to do a reboot. So, you know, a lot of times I don't turn the computer off during the week. Like, I'll just put it on sleep mode. So maybe something updated during the week, you know, and that caused a little problem. But I think we're good now. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the main event. Cody Jon Moxley, Young Bucks, Tony Khan, and the list goes on and on and on. They've all done interviews over the last year and a half, that they were going to be a different form of wrestling. It wasn't going to be like the WWE type product and everything. And look, in many ways, it's different. Let's be honest. But for the last couple of months, I've been talking. What a weird week, right? Garth, yeah, really weird week. But over the last couple of months, I have been noticing, and I brought it up on these shows, that AEW, it feels like they've made, really stern decision to be really heavily storyline driven. And, you remember the Matt Hardy thing. Who attacked Matt Hardy? And after all of that teasing, it was just Sammy Guevara, it was me. Look, did we ever find out who attacked Jon Moxley in the back? Oh, please, God, don't let it end up being it was Don Callis all along. It was me, Mox. It was me all along. Oh, man, that would be so bad. But look, I mean, I honestly, and I'm trying to be really, really nice here. For the life of me, I don't understand what would be the purpose or the benefit of AEW having this storyline right now with Impact Wrestling. I understand with NWA, because NWA is not doing anything right now. But you look at Impact Wrestling, and there is obviously a lot of great talent in Impact Wrestling. But AEW's roster is so deep and large. And Tony Khan even admitted it. Because of COVID, there were people that he probably would have let go that didn't because of COVID. And now you bring it to another Fed that obviously is not doing all that spectacular right now. And again, NWA is pretty much on hiatus. So you bring Thunder Rosa in, you bring the NWA women's title in a little bit. Notice how you don't have Nick Aldis, or you don't, like they did one title, got a little bit of a rub. NWA's not doing anything right now, but Impact Wrestling is. And for Impact Wrestling fans, they probably love this idea. Oh my God, we're going to get some AEW wrestlers showing up on Impact and this and that. But I honestly, truthfully, and I'm not trying to be cruel here, because I do watch Impact Wrestling a lot more now than I have in years. But again, NWA is on hiatus. So if you want to do a little bit of stuff with NWA, that's fine, because it's all one-sided. One day, if Billy Corrigan gets this back up and running, Billy Corrigan may say to Tony Khan, hey, you owe me a couple of favors. You got to have a couple of people show up on my shows. I get it, but that's a lot later. Impact Wrestling right now, you show up on Impact. Let's look at the Impact Wrestling roster for a minute. If Don Callis goes back to Impact on Tuesday and comes out with Kenny Omega, and it's this rouge or some type of swerve that they're trying to bring the AEW championship into Impact Wrestling, and this starts a war. Is anybody, with all due respect, is anybody really looking forward to Sami Callihan versus Jon Moxley, Crazy Steve? Who in Impact Wrestling is the huge draw? You're going to have some of the women wrestling. You're in the middle of Who Shot John Bravo. Where are we going to... Oh, I honestly, man, I don't know where this goes. I hope it's good. But I have a feeling, I got a bad feeling about this, because AEW, that they were not WWE light. And no, WWE did not create the screw job, but it's obviously the most infamous between Bret and Shawn, and then the Spider Lady and Wendy Richter. Those are the two we always remember. But to be honest with you, like, where does this help? You have so many people on the roster that you can't even continue storylines every week. Now you're bringing Impact Wrestling in? I don't know, man. I really, seriously, I know I say to you all a lot, post your comments in the comments section. Let me know what you thought about the show, thought about what you saw on TV. I really want to know how you feel about them. It's not only working with Impact Wrestling, it's taking your most prestigious championship, the AEW World Heavyweight title, and make it look like a Montreal screw job. Don Callis comes down at ringside. He's got a microphone. He gives it to Omega. Omega hits Moxley in the face. And, it's like, I was more, actually, that whole flurry, the two things that I remember from it was all these rose petals falling all over the place and Jim Ross making a wise-ass remark like, oh, that made an impact, which I thought was funny. I don't know if anybody caught the play on words. But I don't get this. Again, I understand NWA because they're on hiatus. If this was New Japan, okay, all right, because we know the talent that is in New Japan. Obviously, that can't happen right now because of COVID still. But there's a reason why Impact Wrestling does less than 100,000 viewers a week. What are you going to get, the Impact Wrestling demographic? You probably have them already. I don't know, man. I'm really confused. Not the storyline, but I'm confused with the business decision. Like I said, at the beginning of the year when I said that this is going to be the year of commingling in wrestling, multiple promotions working together, I had no idea that it was going to end like this, and this was before COVID when I said that. This is just strange. This is strange. This is like, this is not WWF doing some work with ECW in 1997. This is not WWF doing stuff with Smoky Mountain Wrestling in 1993. This is not WWF, because even when WWF was doing stuff with Smoky Mountain Wrestling in 1993, or in Memphis with Jerry Lawler is probably an even better example, Vince McMahon showed up in Memphis. Bret Hart and Owen Hart showed up in Memphis. They didn't bring Memphis to WWF TV. I think Jerry Lawler might have cut one promo one time between commercials. It was all one-sided. The big federation goes to the little federation and does something over there. Impact Wrestling invading AEW? Who really get, like, what? Seriously, chat room, right now, what fantasy match would you really want to see from Impact Wrestling and AEW? Don't put two people together simply because you're picking someone from this roster. Like, tell me some matches that you really would want to see. I mean, what, Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega? Seriously. Oh, Aaron, Super Clash is coming back. It's not a good example, but it is a good example, because Super Clash, that was different because Vern Gagne was in trouble, and Vern Gagne was trying to take this. Look, this is the opposite of Super Clash, because Tony Khan is on the rise. AEW is on the rise. When Super Clash happened, AWA was on the downfall. So AWA did this Super Clash, and you had Jerry Lawler and Kerry Von Erich, and you had all these other feds. And in the end, it was, Vern Gagne trying to bank off of the other promotions and everyone else. Vern Gagne needed the money. He was in big time trouble. I mean, AEW, it's the opposite. Swoggle versus Sammy Guevara. My God. Moose versus Hobbs. You probably could even get that on the indie circuit. I'm not kidding, because wrestlers in AEW can work indie. EC3 also wrestles for Ring of Honor, dude. I don't see EC3. This is just... I don't know, man. I don't know. Deonna Purrazzo versus Hikaru Shida? I mean, does that... my point is, just to summarize what I'm saying, we just had the conversation, which we've talked many times in the past, how AEW has so many people on the roster and so many storylines that they can't fit it every week. As much as you don't like WWE, for the most part, they continue their storylines every week. They don't take weeks off. Sometimes the really low-end storylines don't get the attention, but you have people already on the sidelines. What are you going to do? Take those storylines in AEW that are not working well and have them air on Impact? I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm really, really confused at this one. Not just the involvement with Impact, but what you just did to your heavyweight championship. Serpentico versus Suicide. Brother! Wardlow versus Moose. Rosemary versus Abaddon. Those aren't bad matches. Is that going to sell a pay-per-view? I mean, what is this? I don't get this. I don't get this. Like I just said earlier, Jade Cargill, Nyla Rose, Vicky Guerrero, Brandy Rhodes. It's not a great storyline. You can't even fit them on fucking TV. And what are you going to have, Crazy Steve come out and go at it with Eddie Kingston? Brother! I don't get it, man. I am really confused at this one. On the surface, I don't like it. I don't like it because of what just happened to the AEW Heavyweight Championship. I know it's storyline driven, but I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I'm willing to wait and see what happens. To be honest with you, am I tuning into Impact on Tuesday? No, I doubt it. I'm going to be doing a Patreon show, but I will read the results and read what is said. What could they possibly say? That Kenny Omega throws it in the trash? Tell me how this helps AEW in any way, shape, or form. I mean, seriously. Is this Global Force Wrestling versus Impact all over again? I'm not feeling it. And I'm a big AEW fan, which you already know. I'm not feeling this at all. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. So anyway, now I know for the show, it shows 2 hours have gone by. We obviously had some technical problems. I'm going to have to watch this back and tell everyone, please skip from here to here. So let's move on to, it helps Impact Wrestling, Sam. How does this help AEW? How? How does this help AEW? I'm totally at a loss for words with this. But Anthony Diaz says, I'm just mad because I haven't called for Deli Man to show up. If I did that, you'd have all these people on social media, oh, look how old he is and this and that. Deli Man, I don't think would do good now. Deli Man is good to stick like a sausage up somebody's butt, hit him over the head with a piece of Italian bread, shove gizzards down somebody's throat, and that's it, call it a day. I mean, I could move around now 1,000 times better than I did when I did Deli Man. Deli Man, I couldn't move around for nothing. I mean, pain was horrible and a lot heavier as well. But yeah, Sam, I mean, I could understand if I honestly tell you, I'll be honest with you, and we'll get to NXT. I honestly think that AEW fans got to be angry right now. A majority of them. I know on the surface they'll take the wait and see approach, which is the right thing to do, and so will I. But my split-second reaction is I haven't seen AEW fans for the last 6 months fantasizing matches between Impact Wrestling and AEW. I haven't seen that at all. And I don't know where this helps AEW in any way, shape, or form. It does not make sense. Not just the AEW product, not just their style, but I don't see where this helps AEW in any way, shape, or form. Impact Wrestling must feel like they scratched off a lottery ticket and hit a lottery. I mean, I could picture, this obviously has been developing for a while, but I could just picture Impact Wrestling sending the feeler to AEW and somebody saying, yeah, okay, good luck. Yeah, okay, yeah, they're going to, for our tiny show, they get so, and then AEW's like, okay. And Impact must have been like, this must be a prank. It's got to be a rib. This has got to be a joke. You're not serious, are you? Yeah, no, we'll do something. Oh, I could see if we were doing house shows and COVID wasn't around and you spice up the house shows a little bit and mix up some of the matches. You just screwed. You put an asterisk next to a world title change for Impact Wrestling. Look, good for Impact. Good for Impact. Seriously. If Callis, I have a feeling we'll look back on it and say that Don Callis, Kenny Omega, and Chris Jericho all thought of this idea together because they have a wonderful friendship and relationship together. I just, right now on the surface, it's confusing to me. Very confusing to me. So anyway, NXT. NXT tonight was more the road to WarGames, which is this weekend. I will be doing a WarGames recap. I will be doing it with Mish, by the way. I'm pretty sure. I mean, as long as Mish is seeing it, because I know Joey Numbers is not watching WarGames. Maybe he is. But I had talked to Mish last month, and Mish said to me that other than WWE pay-per-views, he can do it with me. So I will double check with Mish, but I am going to do a recap. And I promise you, tomorrow when I come home from work, I'm going to spend a couple of hours on a computer and just run tests to see what the hell happened, with the internet connection. Because I ran new wires. The connection was solid. Monday we had no issues. So I don't know what caused that tonight. So, but anyway, so NXT tonight was more the build to WarGames with a bunch of crap mixed in as well. First off, we had El Legado del Fantasma. They attacked Kurt Stallion before the show because Kurt Stallion and Leon Ruff were supposed to take on El Legado del Fantasma a week before WarGames, which makes zero sense whatsoever. So because they laid out Kurt Stallion, Damian Priest decides he is going to lay out Joaquin Wilde. And he's doing that, and he decides he's going to team up with Leon Ruff, so nothing happens to Leon Ruff at WarGames. Now, you think of the storyline? Jody's asking me, do I think Triple H is pissed that Sting is in AEW? No, it's a business. It's a business. It is what it is. Sting's got to make money. Sting is getting older. Wrestling is his life. And he was offered a really nice deal from AEW. I don't blame Sting for taking the deal. I'm not going to shit on it because I have no idea what the deal entails. Is he going to be a manager? Is he going to be a mentor? Is he going to be a commissioner? Is he actually going to have a match? Nobody knows the answers to that right now. So people that are immediately, writing the stupid shit online, acting as if he's going to main event an AEW pay-per-view in the near future, or even on the first match on the card, you have no fucking idea. I think a lot of people who ripped on Sting joining AEW today, I think in a week or two, they're probably going to just take a step back and be like, I should have shut the fuck up from the beginning. If they start advertising that they're going to use Sting in ways that we think is pretty dopey, especially with his spinal stenosis and 60 years old and this and that. But then again, you know, what do they say? 60 is the new 50? I'm not going to crap on it until I know what his job is there. Simple. I'm telling you, I think the Arn Anderson weird involvement in the tag team match tonight is a segue to Sting and maybe a segue out for Arn Anderson. We'll see. So anyway, getting back to NXT, you know, you are going to have this tag match, which, just think about that for a minute. They teased having Kurt Stallion and Leon Ruff taking El Legado del Fantasma going up against AEW. So instead, we get Damian Priest and Leon Ruff versus El Legado del Fantasma. Priest and Ruff get the win. It was a fun match, and the Battle Royal in AEW was kind of messy, but man, what an odd opening to NXT. Think of this. Damian Priest got Leon Ruff disqualified last week, and Damian Priest thought he was doing him a favor, and Leon Ruff slapped Damian Priest. So this week, Damian Priest says he's going to team up with Leon Ruff, so Leon to help Leon Ruff make sure he doesn't get injured. Now, Leon Ruff in storyline slapped Damian Priest last week because he didn't need his help. Why wouldn't Leon Ruff be upset this week? I don't know. I just thought it was really, really dumb. Johnny Gargano on commentary was funny. There was one point, I don't know if you saw this, Gargano is doing commentary, and we got not one, but now we got two people with the Scream outfits on in the background. But I'm liking Gargano. I'm liking what he's doing right now. No problem with him. And by the way, I wanted to mention this as well. Congratulations to Leon Ruff. And I think her last name is Smith, Aja Smith. She's the referee for in NXT. They got engaged last week. So best wishes to both of them. So that's very nice to see. So so they win their tag match. We had a couple of video packages setting up WarGames. We had one where the Undisputed Era were in suits at a restaurant, you know, talking about this is the most important match or, you know, challenging match of their career, this and that. You know, look, they're hyping this up very, very well, WWE. I'm definitely looking forward to this WarGames. This WarGames, even though they didn't announce many matches, this WarGames feels like it's going to be a good one. It really does. But they did a couple of video packages to set it up. You know, going into tonight, we didn't know who the last partner was for Shotzi Blackheart on her team for WarGames. During the week, they added Ember Moon. They also added Rhea Ripley. We had Shotzi Blackheart, obviously. And there was a fourth person that we didn't know who it was going to be. We all figured it was going to be Io Shirai after last week. But it wasn't going to be official. If you remember what people were reporting 2 weeks ago, they got 6 out of the 8 people involved wrong, you know. And the only ones they got right was Shotzi and Dakota Kai. No, not Dakota Kai. No, Candice LeRae. They got those two right. Obviously, names were added later on. But, so we have a couple of promos. And in the match, Shotzi Blackheart versus Raquel Gonzalez. The winner will get the upper hand at Team WarGames. Last week, you know, McAfee's team got the upper hand, so I think a lot of us felt that Shotzi's team would get the upper hand this time around. So that was the build. And I got to be honest with you, man. I think WWE has done a fabulous job with Shotzi Blackheart in 2020. Because Shotzi Blackheart, there were times where she was doing these moves and escaped serious neck injuries a couple of times. And she has really tightened up her in-ring repertoire in the ring and has been doing a phenomenal job. She is very well liked. I could arguably say that Shotzi Blackheart might be more popular for fans of NXT than Rhea Ripley right now. I am watching this during the year, and little by little, you see the progression of Shotzi Blackheart. It's awesome. It's awesome. I don't know if people have been feeling that as well. And I will say this also. You know who has really grown on me? Yes, she was on the bump, but it had nothing to do with that. But her appearance on the bump was cool also. I am really, really enjoying Raquel Gonzalez. I think Raquel Gonzalez, arguably, she's not technically a rookie, but she has had a breakout year in NXT. I mean, Raquel Gonzalez, I'm telling you, she went from coming across as a bodyguard in the background doing nothing, and you could feel that she's taking the initiative and getting that presence. I honestly, like Raquel Gonzalez, probably the most out of that team. I know some of you are into Toni Storm, but Raquel Gonzalez, I mean, to me, it's almost like Sonya Deville meets China. But Raquel Gonzalez, she has really amped it up. I honestly feel that way. So anyway, Cameron Grimes beats the makeup man, August Gray. After the match is over, because now we know Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes are having a strap match at the pay-per-view. You have Cameron Grimes trash-talking Dexter Lumis, taking it out on August Gray. I think we all knew that was going to happen. There was one point where Cameron Grimes takes out the strap. He straps the other side to August Gray. He's whipping him with the strap, and then he throws him outside the ring. You can't see August Gray. Obviously, August Gray crawled underneath the ring, gave the strap to Dexter Lumis, and then when Cameron Grimes was facing the other way, Dexter Lumis entered the ring with the strap on. Cameron Grimes thought it was August Gray. He turns around, he gets scared shit, and he's trying to leave the ring, and Dexter Lumis is whipping him with the strap. I have said for about 8 months now that Dexter Lumis is my favorite star in NXT. Hasn't changed. But I will say that the storyline with Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes has had its ups and its downs. And after that haunted house match, that should have been the end of it. And then they did that god-awful blindfold match. And I'm like, what are you doing to the story? I understand that's to set up the strap match. Cameron Grimes can't run away anymore. But, man, this storyline feels like it went way too long. Way too long, in my opinion. But we got that at the pay-per-view. And I think the strap match will end up being better than anything that they have done to this point. So next, Jake Atlas beats Tony Nese. Another match that I don't understand the week before TakeOver. Going up against AEW in a pretty strong lineup. I mean, I understand everybody's got to get a chance, but Jake Atlas, unfortunately, and I brought up the quarter-hour ratings, and Friday I'll probably do last week and this week's. Very curious to see what Moxley and Omega do. But, Jake Atlas gets a win, and he cuts a promo with Mackenzie Phillips like, sometimes you take 3 steps back and 1 big step forward. And, I told everybody, just when you thought I was out, I would come up. He's got no momentum now whatsoever. Beating Tony Nese, that to me, that was just uninteresting. They have done a lot of damage to Jake Atlas, and I know I've said it 1,000 times, they should have had him turn on Drake Maverick when they were doing that tournament when Drake was fighting for his life. I know they didn't want Jake Atlas heel at that time, and they kind of don't want him heel right now, but man, that would have just changed so much of a direction with Jake Atlas. So that match tonight really didn't appeal to a lot of people. And during that match, you got the split screen of McAfee's group arriving in their Hummer or Jeep, whatever it was. And it reminded me of old WCW where you're not paying it. I mean, come on. You had Vic Joseph tonight say that this was Jake Atlas's biggest win in his WWE career. And you do a split screen with McAfee's group coming in. I don't know, man. I just was like, this is what you do tonight? Ugh. Pat McAfee and his team come to the ring, and, you know, he's hyping up the match with the Undisputed Era. Paid a little respect for Pat Patterson, which I thought was cool. And look, there is no question McAfee can talk. He is excellent on the mic. Some of his promos go a little bit way too long, but McAfee is turning out to be one of those guys that look, there's a difference in, you know, heat where you want to see one get their ass kicked and heat where you just don't want to see them on TV at all. McAfee has that heat that you want to see him get his ass kicked. And I tell you, I've come a long way towards Pat McAfee. A hell of a long way. And I'm really looking forward to the WarGames. Absolutely, man. They did a segment with Xia Li and Boa, you know, doing like some type of a training session. I don't know where it's going to go from here. You know, I'm very interested in the storyline, but, you know, this can't drag out for a month. I mean, you got WarGames, so obviously you're not going to do anything Sunday, but next week, the progression of this storyline needs to go to another level, without a doubt. Grizzled Young Veterans, here's another match that I honestly, with no disrespect intended, I don't understand why this was on the show tonight. I don't get it. They were supposed to fight Everrise. Imperium attacks Everrise before the match, so Imperium gets the match against Grizzled Young Veterans. Well, can you figure out what happens? We get a long match. Good match, but long match. Just to have Everrise show up and attack both teams, and the match gets thrown out. It felt like we got to kill 20 minutes of the show tonight. Let's throw this. This has nothing to do with WarGames this weekend. And I'm looking at what AEW had. AEW had 5-6 matches advertised before tonight. NXT only had one. And it was very, very difficult for me to even put together this banner tonight. I mean, look at it. The top right-hand corner was just a match preview for Sunday because I didn't know what else to put on there. Look, the bottom, the Road to WarGames, I used that last week. The only thing that they had up until 7 o'clock tonight was the middle, Shotzi versus Raquel. And I'm saying to myself, come on, man, you can't fucking, you don't advertise anything beforehand? Oh, we just learned that, you know, I'm telling you, I think WWE, their ratings would be a little bit better if they were just more organized with their publicity before NXT airs. If you have a couple of stronger matches and advertise them a couple of days in advance, you know, I think people would be looking for, you know, NXT is not solid enough where you could go into it with just one match and then, yeah, the Undisputed Era, okay, they're going to be cutting a promo. So we'll stick around and we'll watch the Grizzled Young Veterans versus Imperium. Huh? We've talked about the quarter-hour ratings. I don't think Drake was even on tonight. I don't remember seeing Drake tonight, unless I took a leak or set up the show. Thank God the connection is better. So I guess it just needed a reboot, you know. But anyway, so the Grizzled Young Veterans in Imperium, that match gets thrown out. We have another Thatch Can segment with one of his students. And this week, he's talking about distraction. That's the lesson for this week. Taking shots at Tommaso Ciampa. Next thing you know, Tommaso Ciampa what was I going to say? Tommaso Ciampa. Next thing you know, he's right next to the student. He's just observing. And then the student starts beating down on Ciampa a little bit. Thatcher beforehand is telling Ciampa he's got no problem with him. Ciampa calls him a disappointment. And then Thatcher attacks Ciampa, and then, Ciampa tells him don't be an ass. And then Thatcher's student attacks Ciampa. And then we get a segment later on where Thatcher is telling Mackenzie Phillips that, here's a student taking an initiative, for himself. And, even though they didn't announce that match technically for WarGames, I think you are going to see Thatcher versus Ciampa at WarGames. If it doesn't happen at WarGames, it's because WWE does not think it's strong enough. But, so they now announced the card for WarGames. Leon Ruff versus Damian Priest versus Gargano for the North American title. By the way, I'm going to do predictions on Friday, for the Don Tony show, just in case they add another match or two, because right now there is only 3 matches confirmed, and you could add 4 if you put in Ciampa versus Thatcher. You have Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis in the strap match. 5 matches, actually. Ruff, Priest, and Gargano. Undisputed Era versus McAfee's group. Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch. I'm still not feeling them all that well. But, give it time. Pete Dunne, Pat McAfee. And then you have the team of Candice LeRae, Toni Storm, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez versus Shotzi, Blackheart, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley. And we don't know the 4th person yet because we have the main event, which was Shotzi and Raquel. Ladder match, briefcase held in the air, very physical. Like I said, Shotzi Blackheart has had a phenomenal 2020. And Raquel Gonzalez, I could arguably say, might be the breakout star of 2020 for NXT. Breakout, I mean. She has done a hell of a job as well. This main event was excellent. I hope their rating is close to Moxley and Omega. If it's 100,000 less viewers, 150,000 less viewers, I'm okay with that, because if Omega Moxley, let's say, does 900,000 viewers, you have Gonzalez and Shotzi doing 750. That's not bad at all, because NXT has had some main events recently that had a hard time breaking 520,000 viewers. But no, Ken, I agree with you. Shotzi hasn't had anything amazing. This main event match tonight I thought was very good. But she has had a solid 2020 and really amped it up as Raquel got. Look, a lot of people have had an awesome 2020 in NXT. Io Shirai has had an awesome 2020. So it's been quite a few people. But, very physical, battling on the ladders. And you had Candice LeRae's team around ringside during this. Originally, they were on that same platform like last week with the Undisputed Era. McAfee's team couldn't get involved. And McAfee wasn't there last week, obviously. But this time around, Indy Hartwell, who's sporting the neck brace, she brings this, giant, high, ladder, you know what I'm talking about, a contraption, so they could walk off of, that area where they were, couldn't be at ringside. Then it turns into an absolute clusterfuck at ringside. And here comes Io Shirai. And Io Shirai ends up being the 4th member. And it fills this tag team, this 4-on-4 phenomenal for WarGames. WarGames feels like an all-star card for NXT. I mean, there's some names notably absent, but Io Shirai, filling this in, she doesn't have any feud right now, so to speak. I absolutely enjoyed it, and Shotzi gets the win today, grabs the briefcase, they get the upper hand, so it is now Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae, Toni Storm, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez. Excellent. I'm curious as which match closes out WarGames. I almost feel like the women's match may end up closing out WarGames. So, Benjamin, perfect. I'm so glad you said that. This is now, week 7 or week 8 that Finn Balor has that title without wrestling? Remember what I said originally? People thought he was going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. WWE, if anything, has proven they don't have a backup plan other than Finn Balor. Because he came back 2 weeks ago, showed his face, got immediately interrupted by McAfee, and nothing this week. Nothing, probably Sunday. So they just milked 2 more weeks of this. Unacceptable, in my opinion. Totally unacceptable. So, Smoking Hydro, they said that Lars and Aleister Black are going back to NXT. Aleister Black would be good. They also said that about Andrade. I don't have any problem with anybody going back to NXT. Lars had a pretty good run in NXT. So did Aleister Black. So, hey, if you can do that, sure. I'm all for that. Absolutely for that. So that was your episode of NXT today. As far as ratings go, look, I did not think NXT was going to beat AEW last week. I know some of you are going to say, no, they tied. They tied. Still, I don't think anybody and their mother ever thought it was going to be that close last week. Yes, it was Thanksgiving. Yes, there will be a ratings bump this week. And again, AEW advertised a pretty decent lineup today. Kazarian and Jericho, I don't know if that really popped any numbers. I don't think it would. Some of the other matches, the Battle Royal felt like the draw. Cody and Darby Allin's match felt like a little bit of a draw in the main event tonight, obviously. And yeah, we didn't know Sting was going to appear, but as far as numbers go, like you all said earlier, anything below 850 would be a big disappointment for AEW. So I'm going to trust all of you, and I'm going to say that AEW does 866,000. I'm going to go with 866 for AEW. NXT, last week they did 712, which was higher than the week before. So, that Thanksgiving excuse makes no sense. But NXT leading into WarGames, that main event was solid, but everything else earlier wasn't that impressive for me. Wasn't that impressive. So they did 712 last week. I don't think they increase all that much. I say 747 or 757. Yeah, so that's my ratings prediction. I think, look, when you add it up, it's 1,550,000 tuning in, almost 1.6 million, which is, a pretty competitive number compared to Monday nights. But, this wasn't a pay-per-view. I mean, AEW treated it kind of like a pay-per-view, but the undercard, other than 2 matches, I don't think was that appealing. So we will see what happens. We will see what happens. So with that said, I am going to jet out of here. I want to thank you all again for tuning in tonight. My sincere apologies for those technical issues before. I honestly don't know what caused that. Like I said, my internet connection is solid now. Monday was fine, which was only 2 days ago. We had a fine connection. I can only think that I must have had some type of an update go down today that I wasn't aware of, and it was interfering with my network. So I don't have antivirus programs on when I'm doing the show, and all my updates are off while I'm doing the show. So it's not like something could have updated while we were doing the show. But man, that was a little bit frustrating before. But I'm glad you all enjoyed the show. And before you go, if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If the disconnections were annoying you enough, give it a thumbs down. And seriously, in the comments section, because I read everything, let me know. Like, look at the Impact Wrestling roster. And really, don't just put two people together because you think they would have a decent match or you think that they are similar in style. Like, look at that card and tell me, what matches would you say, I would love to see blah, blah, blah versus blah, blah, blah. Kenny Omega, for example, I honestly, there is nobody that I could think of off the top of my head that is in Impact right now that if you said to me, Kenny Omega is going to face blah, blah, blah from Impact Wrestling and they were going to headline a pay-per-view, there's nobody in Impact where I would say, yeah, I paid for that. I don't know. This is very, very weird. It's weird. I mean, I just don't see where AEW is getting a buzz because it's controversial, but is that the type of controversial you want? I don't know, man. Omega versus Callahan, Omega versus RVD. I mean, is that the best you could come up with? I don't know, man. I tell you, after I finish fixing all this editing crap tonight, I am going to go on social media. I'm going to ignore the bitter bitches, but I'm really going to pay attention at the big, committed, diehard AEW fans. And I want to see what their reactions are. I have not had a chance, obviously, to look because we went live as soon as the show started. But I get this feeling that there's going to be a lot of unhappy AEW fans tonight about that. Sting, I think overall, it's going to be positive. I think the bitter bitches were probably the loudest early on. But again, I think some of them are going to be quite foolish, especially if we find out that Sting's role is going to not necessarily be pretty much a wrestling role, in-ring role. But as far as what happened with the world title and Impact, I am really curious to see No, I'm not knocking it, Lone Wolf. I'm willing to give it a chance. If it's entertaining, I'm all for it. But right now, just looking at it, I don't understand. I'm confused. What AEW gets out of this? When you talk about wrestlers that you'd love to see jump to AEW, we've heard Thunder Rosa, we've heard Tessa Blanchard, we've heard a couple of people here and there. I have not heard pretty much anybody say, oh, Heath Miller, love to see him in it. I haven't seen anybody talking about AEW stars. I don't know, man. I don't know. I get this feeling that AEW fans are not going to be thrilled about this Impact situation. Some people may not have the kahunas to publicly criticize it. There's some people out there that praise everything because, they get interviews, they get, preferential treatment, they get hits, so I understand why some people do what they do, but I have a feeling that you're going to see quite a bit of backlash from those real strong AEW supporters that are ballsy enough to voice how they feel. So we'll see what happens. So everyone, much love as always. Again, I apologize for the connection issues earlier. I will make sure to figure out whatever the hell it was, fix it. And Friday on the Don Tony Show, we will be problem free. So I will do my damnedest. But everyone have a great night. Much love as always. And I will catch you all again Friday for the Don Tony Show. Be well, everyone. Stay safe. All the best. And happy holidays. Ciao, everybody.